What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Drive for Show, DFS for Dough here on Rotogrinders. We weren't sure if we were going to be with you this week, but both Draftkings and FanDuel have offered contests for the Zurich Classic for the first time since it became a team event. So we're here, we're ready to go. At least 2/3 of us are here and 2/3 of us are ready to go. Tambo's taking the week off, so we hope he has a good time and enjoys some time away. But I am Justin Van Zuiden. I will host the program as usual, and Mr. Derek Farnsworth, you know him better as Notorious, is alongside me. So we will run through the Zurich Classic this week here. Team event, 80 teams competing, top 35 and ties will make the cut. So we'll kind of break down the format and how things are a little bit different this week, and we'll take a quick look back at last week's RBC Heritage. So thanks as always for joining us, and bring in Noto now. Derek, how you doing?
Yeah, doing good. Well, obviously, Miss Tambo, he's out for charging the batteries, which sounds pretty nice. We thought we were going to get a week off, but we're still here grinding. And if there's ever a week for Tambo, I mean, this is it. All the narratives this week: the team shower narrative, the team chemistry, all that kind of stuff, which we'll talk about. So that'll be some fun. Last week, man, I got nothing right. No Stewart Sink, no Varner, no Grillo. My sweat was pretty much over by Thursday afternoon. How about you?
Yeah, it was a rough one. I did have Grillo in my player pool and Connors, so two of the top five. But Sunday only served to like reduce my loss by a little bit. After it was one of those weeks where you're just hoping that maybe a few lineups have a chance after Thursday and Friday. So yeah, just a few too many missed cuts in my player pool, and just it didn't all come together last week. And yeah, I didn't have any sync either, and it was pretty much wire to wire for him. I mean, you start 63. About the only mistake he made all week was trying to chuck the ball to the across the green there after he won and knocking over a spectator. So other than that, pretty good performance. Ended up winning by 4. And it was nice to see Varner play well on Sunday too. I mean, that's been his big problem over the course of the last few years when he's been in contention. So no, it wasn't a win, but top 5 for Varner, top 5 for Mad McNeely too. So those are a couple guys that could be on the rise. But yeah, it wasn't the greatest DFS week, even though we both like Fitzpatrick, and he ended up rebounding from Thursday to finish pretty well there. Also tied for 4th in kind of that little group, but yeah, just too many landmines last week.
Yeah, for sure. And at the very top, I mean, Team No Putt. You have Grillo, Varner, Corey Connors, even Sink. I mean, he's never been like an amazing putter. So maybe something to keep in mind for next year's RBC Heritage. And it's crazy to think Sink's won twice this year. I mean, he hadn't won since 2009. Now he's top 50 in the world. I mean, I know we talked about him gaining some distance off the tee, but pretty crazy in his 40s, just getting it done.
Yeah, saw a lot of tweets over the week about there's probably going to be a random drug test notice in his locker, just to double check and make sure everything's okay. But it was an interesting cut line sweat last week as well. Luke List moving the cut line like the second to last player to finish was a little bit tilting for those of us that can't quit Tommy Fleetwood and thought he'd done just enough there on Friday with a 65, only for Luke List to move the cut. And I believe Fleetwood, let's see, missed, even though he shot a 65 on Friday, missed a 6-foot, 11-inch birdie on his second to last hole and a 10-footer on his last hole, and needed just one of those to make the cut. But Cantlay, Casey, Hadwin, Zach Johnson, I mean, some names that had some ownership last week. Sergio tanked on Friday. Just was, too many of those landmines out there, and I'd imagine you maybe had one or two of those guys in your main lineup last week.
Yeah, I had Cantlay, and then I don't even remember who else. Quick memory for me. I don't really want to dwell
I know
on that.
Same. Yeah, we're not going to dwell on last week too much. So we'll move on from that wonky event, moving to another wonky event. So Zurich Classic team event this week. 80 teams. I mentioned this at the get-go, but 80 teams, 35 and ties will make the cut. And they play one of the first 2 rounds where each player plays their own ball, and you take the best score of the 2. And the other 2 rounds, they play alternate shot, where scoring, won't be quite as good. But generally in the past, I mean, even when this was just a regular PGA Tour event, was a tournament that often yielded pretty good scoring. So particularly in the 2 rounds where you're going to see, each player play their own ball and you take the best score, I mean, we're going to see a lot of birdies here. So is that, really what the primary factor we need to look at is just guys that are going to be able to make birdies?
I mean, I think so on paper anyway, but the alternate shot certainly interesting. Guys with like different styles of play might, be at a little disadvantage. Guys that are paired with a bomber and a shorter hitter off the tee, maybe the bomber leaves the guy that's typically in the fairway, in some bad spots off the tee. But I mean, all these things are just, conjecture on our part. We don't really know what to expect. This is the first time we've had to handicap this thing. So we're kind of just flying by the seat of our pants. But for the most part, yeah, if you can make birdies, you're going to be in a good spot. And a lot of it's going to come down to timing as well. You want to have your birdies on separate holes during the best ball days, because if you both eagle the par five, it's only going to give you one eagle. But if you eagle one and double and on the same hole, then you're going to get the eagle too. So it's a little bit of luck involved. We've seen some very weird guys play well at this event in the past. I think you had Matt Every up there in 2019, the last time they played. John Rahm and Ryan Palmer, obviously the defending champs, but the guys with the best course history, Scott Brown and Kevin Kisner. So definitely a weird mix of golfers having success here. And it's a Pgi course, TPC Louisiana, 7,400 yards. There are 4 par 5s that are very gettable. And then all the par 3s are over 200 yards. So I think there's going to be a lot of approaches over 200 yards if you do want to look at, proximity or scores relative to par from, greater than 200 yards. I certainly don't think that's a bad stat to look at if you're doing some type of tiebreaker. But I don't think you have to be long off the tee. I think you probably have to be, pretty good with your irons. And then it just comes down to making birdies, like you said.
All right. And yeah, so this tournament was not contested last year, was part of the cuts from the schedule with the COVID pause. But 2019 was the year that Rahm and Palmer won the last time it was contested. And just for reference, for those of you who might be wondering, 8 under was the cut for the top 35 in ties in the 2019 edition. In the 2018 edition, it was 5 under. So, you guys, you're going to see really low scores the first round when they're using 4-ball format. So that's the round where you really got to make sure you make some birdies and get ahead of that cut line. A little more difficult to make them up on the Friday round where you're playing alternate shots. So like Derek mentioned, the course itself, the par 5s are gettable. You've got 11 and 18 on the back, are both, around 575, 580 yards, and 2 and 7 on the front are both around, 550, 560 yards. So in this day and age, if you're in the fairway, pretty much everybody in the field is going to be able to try to hit these greens in 2. 18 does have water running down one side of it, but not like some of the other challenging par 5s that we've seen in recent events where it almost forces a layup out of you if you're not in prime position. So you're going to see guys attacking this course and like Derek said, hopefully well timing the birdies when you're playing the 4-ball format on especially starting in that first round on Thursday. So the first thing that we noticed kind of this week when we saw the DraftKings posted contests, I mean, this isn't your normal PGA Tour event where we've got like 4 or 5 teams that are priced above 10K. And for reference, DraftKings has priced all the players separately, but teammates have the same price. And you can only roster one of them. You can't roster both teammates on the same roster. So it's basically just to help them with their coding so they didn't have to change all that code to try to put the teammates together for 1 week. So anyway, my point here, Noto, is that this is a more difficult slate in terms of pricing than what we're used to. I mean, it's tough to build a good team.
Yeah, it's really tough. Even if you start with one of the 2 most expensive teams, you're already dipping down into that 7K range. So definitely tighter pricing this week. And I will note, you mentioned, the price, the golfers are listed separately on DraftKings. On Lineup HQ, we ended up just taking out, half the players. So you can only roster one of them in Lineup HQ. That way you're not building a lineup and then trying to upload it to DraftKings with 2 of the guys on the same team. So if you're wondering where half the golfers are in Lineup HQ, it's just because we only have their teammate in there. Just to make it easier on you, I do believe we have a note that says who their teammate is.
Yeah, there's a banner where you can click on it and then you can see the full teams, or you can pull it up on one of the DFS sites. FanDuel has combined the golfers together, and I believe we changed that in Lineup HQ to support it for FanDuel. DraftKings, like you mentioned, we just removed one of the two golfers to make that scripting work. So, all right, let's dig in then. We don't have a whole lot at the top. I mean, there's Schauffele and Cantlay are probably the most high-profile team, along with Rahm and Palmer, who obviously Palmer has gotten a lot of status from this event and huge results here. So you see a lot of guys maybe treat this as an exhibition, but for Ryan Palmer, it's always one of his best events of the year. So Cantlay and X and Palmer and Rahm are clearly the two favorites. They're both around 6-1, 7-1, which I don't think is great betting odds. But we kind of got to balance the tighter pricing. On FanDuel, you're probably playing one of these two teams at the top, but on DK, in say like a cash game build, like, can you start with one of these top two?
That was my first thought, is just to play one of the favorites and then build from there. But I think the winning score is going to be 20 under, maybe even a lot lower than that. And so it's going to increase the value of getting 6-6 through the cut. If you can get it depends on the 6-6 ownership, but even if you get 5-6 and the 6-6 is low, it's going to be really beneficial this week because there are going to be so many birdies on the weekend. So for me, I'm going to probably start a little bit lower just to slightly increase my chances of 6-6. I don't feel great about a lot of the teams in the 6K range. We'll obviously have to roster some of them, but from a single entry perspective, I'm going to be skipping the very top. From MME, I'm obviously going to have exposure to both of them. They're both around 7-1 in the betting market. Rightly so. They're four of the best golfers in the field. You mentioned Xander and Cantlay. This will be the week Cantlay ends up playing well because I'm not playing him in my main lineup. I've been on him every single week, the Players, the Masters, even last week, and ended up burning me. I think he missed the cut all three of those events. Xander, Xander's going to play well, regardless of the course. So those two make a lot of sense. I think they're going to feed off each other. They don't really have a weakness in their game, in any parts of their game. So I think that'll be nice. And then you mentioned Rahm and Palmer, they're friends. They won this event in the past, and Palmer's just had a great season. He's had a lot of top 20 finishes, three top 5 finishes already in the 2021 season. So they make a lot of sense as well. Just from a single entry standpoint, I don't think I can get either one of them.
Yeah. It takes your average down to about 7,600 per golfer if you start with one of them, and just go look at some of the teams you start to see down there, and you got to then tell yourself, okay, I got to pick 5 of these. Makes it pretty difficult. So I think I agree with your logic there, but we'll definitely have some in tournaments. Yeah. And then that goes to everybody else that follows, like above 10K. You've got Morikawa and Wolf. Wolf is obviously inconsistent. Cam Smith and Leishman, they've got some experience playing together. Cam Smith's been playing really, 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 really well of late. But that pairing is over 11K. Watson, Scheffler, Finau, Champ, Horschel, Burns, Willett, Hatton, Kirk, Todd. I mean, all these teams are above 10K. So again, tighter pricing than what we're used to. Why don't you go through a couple of your favorites if you're looking to maybe start a little bit lower?
Yeah, I think my least favorites, the lowest owned that we have right now, is Wolf and Morikawa. I just don't know where Wolf's game's at right now. I mean, he's had a lot of withdrawals, had the DQ at the Masters, just hasn't shown a ton of upside recently. Morikawa obviously is going to give his team a bunch of birdie looks. So that does make sense if you want to, take some shares in MME. You're not going to get, 9% ownership on a 10K golfer team very often in DFS. So I don't hate it. I don't mind the Aussie team of Smith and Leishman. They both top 10 at the Masters. And Cam Smith, I mean, he's just been playing great for 6 months now. And he's obviously our previous winner here back in 2017. I think that was the team event as well. So he's got the course history. Leishman played well here individually before they started going to a team event. So I think that makes some sense. He's obviously got a lot of Ryder Cup experience. And our President's Cup, Ryder Cup. Aussie. So is he?
Yeah. What's that? That President's Cup?
Yeah, President's Cup. Anyway, Bubba Watson, he's played well here before. I believe he won here a long time ago. And then he's with Scheffler, who's been playing some great golf. So I think that is certainly an interesting combo. Looks like they're going to be fairly popular. The Bomber, Champ, and Finau, I'm not really sure what to expect there. And then Burns and Horschel are going to be popular as well. Yeah, I don't really know. I think my favorite above 10K is going to be Kirk and Todd. I guess they lived together for 4 years in college. They're really good friends. They both play well on PGA courses, on short Bermuda courses. So they're probably going to be my favorites. And then for tournaments, I don't mind going to Willett and Hatton. I just think Hatton's a great golfer, and it's not really reflected in the price. I think Willett can at least get up for a couple of these rounds.
Yeah, for sure. And that's kind of what people are going to come to. They're going to think, well, I don't want to play Willett. It's just a lot of these teams, especially as we get lower, you're going to like, okay, one of the guys is okay, but I don't feel comfortable with that second guy. Just makes that an interesting discussion. And your mention of Cam Smith, that was the first year that this was a team competition. He won with Jonas Blixt.
That's right.
At 27 under, won in a 4-hole playoff over Kisner and Brown that year. So that was back in 2017. I like Watson and Scheffler. I think for upside, they give you plenty of potential. Eagle chances on the par fives, and just some top 5 upside there. So that's my favorite of the group. I do agree with Noto's thoughts on Willett and Hatton, and that's the one that scares me maybe a little bit to be underweight on. So, and nice nugget on Kirk and Todd as well. Dipping into the 9K range, we got Max Homa and Taylor Gooch in there. Hovland is probably the biggest name that's priced below 10K. Grace and Varner. Varner coming off a good week last week. Rose and Stenson, maybe the most name value of the bunch, but trusting Stenson right now is a really difficult decision to make. So, and Oosthuizen and Schwartzel missed the cut here last time, but I believe top 5 the year before that. So, your thoughts on that 9K range?
Yeah, I think for me, I'll cross out Rose and Stenson. Like you mentioned, Stenson just hasn't been a very good golfer the last couple of years, and Rose, I mean, top 10 at the Masters, but his last 3 rounds were taped together with Band-Aids and plugging all the
a lot
holes.
more than Band-Aids, heavy duct tape.
Yeah, the gif of a dam breaking and just trying to plug all the holes, and new one keeps coming out. So for him to post the top 10 was pretty impressive. But I know those two, a lot of team experience at the Ryder Cup. But I don't think I'll be on them. If you want to stick with the shower narrative of Kirk and Todd, you got Hovland and Ventura. Obviously went to college together, played a lot of golf together. Saw a picture of them today when they were like 10 years old playing golf together. So sorry, I was getting a call. So they're certainly interesting. It doesn't look like they're going to be too popular. Then you have Homa and Gooch, who both been playing some good golf. I think it looks like they're going to be pretty chalky, but they make a lot of sense to me.
Somebody wants to talk about Hoffman.
Yeah.
And
sorry, go ahead.
No, you're all right. I'll let you take care of that for a sec. So yeah, I think this is an interesting range that's probably going to go under-owned a little bit. I do like the South African narrative with Oosthuizen and Schwartzel as well. Again, it feels overpriced for Schwartzel, but I mean, that group is cheaper than Stenson's group. So I'm with you on crossing out Rose and Stenson there. I do think you probably need to end up with maybe one team from this range. Steele and Bradley, I think, maybe a little bit safer than some of the other groups. Peters and Lewis, inconsistent. Benny On, we know, super inconsistent, and Sung J M hasn't been in the best form of late either. So don't love a whole lot of guys in this range. Oosthuizen, Schwartzel, Bradley, Steele, I'll have some exposure to. What's your take on Joel Damon and Lanto there at 9K? It just feels so pricey, but like we've said, it's just the nature of the beast here.
Yeah, definitely feels pricey, and 12%. You're not getting much of a discount on ownership either. Donovan's one of those guys, had that great victory a few weeks back. It just seems like he might, let off the gas a little bit here in the next. I don't know. We just see it so often that a guy finally breaks through and then kind of has a moment of relief over the next couple months. So I'll be off of him. I don't mind the South African team of Oosthuizen and Charles Schwartzel. And then you mentioned Keegan and Brendan Still, probably 2 of the better ball strikers in the field. They're going to have a ton of 6-foot birdie looks, just whether they can knock them down or not. Maybe they can
cue up the very first hole when they both head to 6 feet on the 4-ball and they both miss.
Yeah, maybe they can, let loose a little bit and just be more aggressive, since they know, they're not both going to 3-putt from 10 feet. So maybe they can just, I don't know, be more aggressive. And that's at least my hope, because I do like them quite a bit.
Don't leave it short, right? If you're going to both have a decent birdie look, don't leave it short.
And they're also really good friends. Apparently they play all their practice rounds together in any tournament that they're both playing.
Yeah, everybody's scooping up the narratives this week. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, I like them. I think they're one of the safer groups in this range. All right, let's head into the 8K. Some of the notable groups in there. You got Fratelli and Streelman. Lucas Glover. Lucas Glover's been playing some decent golf of late. Let's see, that is 6 straight made cuts now. Had that 4th place at the Valero. Decent 33rd place finish last week. And then Brown and Kisner, plenty of experience here. Really interesting discussion with those two. I mean, obviously Scott Brown, we've seen almost no form from of late. Kisner hasn't been playing that well either. So what do you make of Brown and Kisner? You value the history here over the recent form, or the other way around?
Well, I ran my model and they were like one of the worst point per dollar options, just based on stats and all that. But I gotta like them. They're both very course dependent type of golfers. You know, we saw Scott Brown at the Puerto Rico Open. He's like 10K every time he plays there, tops 10 there every single year, and then he goes to 6K the next week and nobody plays him. For whatever reason, he likes his course. Same with Kevin Kisner. He's, you know, been on record saying there's 5 or 6 courses that you know, he thinks he can contend at, and he circles them on his calendar, and this is one of them. So I'm buying into the narrative. I do think they'll be a lot higher owned than the 9% that we have them right now. Everyone's just going to be buying into that. And there's actually 4 teams in this field that have played here each of the last 3 years together, and 3 of them are in this range. You have Reeve and Glover, who I believe they're never missed a cut together. Watney and Hoffman, who have never missed a cut together, and then Brown and Kisner. I think they're all interesting. Kisner and Brown are going to be my favorites by a little bit. And Watney's missed like 11 cuts in a row, which is kind of crazy. But Hoffman has been playing some of his best golf over the last few years, so maybe he can get Watney going a little bit.
I don't think I can pull that trigger. I can't. I don't think I can with Watney.
It's pretty bad, yeah. And they haven't been very close either. 132nd, 132nd, like nothing like right on the number. So yeah, you might be right.
He closed out last week with a second round 80, so he's getting close. I can't do it. You know, you see Kokrak and Perez right below them. That sounds a little better. Van Rooyen and Wyndham Clark. And Doug Gim and Justin Suh, I can get behind a little bit. I mean, 2 kind of young, up-and-coming golfers on the PGA Tour. We've seen Gim contend a couple times. You know, that's a group that I really like at 8,100, and I think they're 70 to 1 in the betting markets. So don't mind a sprinkle there. And Kokrak and Perez feels fairly safe. They'll probably be one of the most popular teams. So go ahead and round out your thoughts on that 8K range.
Yeah, I do like Kokrak and Perez. Kokrak playing some great golf. He's top 10 on the PGA Tour in strokes gained putting this year, which is pretty crazy considering he's usually one of the worst putters. Perez, he was on the Golf Subpar podcast last week talking about how much he's grinding on his game, and he thinks the results are coming around soon. So if you want to build, you know, another narrative, there you go. I like the Swedish team, Norlander and Noren, you know, one good ball striker and one guy that's really good with the short game. So kind of opposing skill sets there. I think that's at least somewhat interesting. They haven't played together and they haven't played the team event, any of them. So no, first time for everything, but don't mind that. And then I like your Gim Suh call. I think they're interesting for sure.
Yeah, definitely worth a look in tournaments. Let's see, we've got them at some fairly high ownership. So not getting super low ownership there, but I like them. All right, as we head into the 7Ks and get ready to round things out, Matt McNeely rebounded last week, mentioned at the top of the show, top 5 finish there. He's paired with Joseph Bramlett, who has made his last 2 cuts as well. Got a couple short hitters there. If you want to buy we play the same type of golf narrative with Knox and Stewart. I think I'm off of Knox this week. It just hasn't been there the last few weeks for him, and a little bit of fatigue here from playing Knox too much. So I think I'm off of there. I mean, Neesmith and Seifert are probably going to be the chalk value play of the week. I noticed that Noto wrote them up this week as one of his favorite bets, and I put them as my favorite value. And now we've got them as the most popular play on the board because this is so tightly priced, and they're one of the values that I think people are going to feel comfortable with. Both have shown improving results in the last few weeks, and they're, you know, pretty affordable there at 7,500. So that's my favorite. What are you looking at in here?
Yeah, faced with a tough decision there. You know, my mantra is to always fade the cheap chalk, and they're going to be extreme chalk. We have them at 26% right now. the highest of any team on the entire board. So they certainly rate out well. Neesmith, great with the approach. Seifert doesn't really have a weakness in his game. They've both been in pretty good form, like you mentioned. And part of the reason why they're so popular is, all the other teams in this range just have one golfer that is in such bad form. You have Spawn, Bramlett. We haven't seen him in a long time. Roberto Castro hasn't played a ton of golf on the PGA Tour over the last couple of years. He's historically been, a good ball striker. And I like him with Cameron Tringali. I think that's at least somewhat interesting. But I'll have a couple of shares of Knox and Stewart. They did play together here last year, finished T22. I know Knox has been bad. He's been burning us a lot, but he has gained strokes on approach in 4 straight. Missed the cut in all of those, but he did gain strokes with the irons. So, they're going to be playing from the fairway. Both those guys really good at, hitting fairways and typically better on shorter Bermuda courses like this one. Outside of that, I'm not really in love with any of these teams. The Keith Mitchell, Brandt Snedeker pairing is rather strange.
It's very strange. That gets my vote as the strangest team.
They should be required to write a little intro paragraph. Each team as how they got to be a team for the event.
I tried to look to find some connection. I couldn't find it.
Can you just register solo and then get paired up?
Nobody wants to play with me. Find me a partner. I don't know. They were both born in Tennessee. It was the only thing I could come up with.
You did deep dive.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't get it. Anyway, Snedeker and Mitchell. I might play some because why not? I want something to get me invested in following them for hopefully 4 days, at least 2 days. And I never need an excuse. If I'm going to play Keith Mitchell again anytime soon, it might as well be in this weird event. Buyer beware. It's as is condition here. We're not giving any warranties on Mitchell and Snedeker. But yeah, that was the one that popped out to me as the strangest pairing. Akshay and Piercy got some votes as well. And I saw Wiley talking about that on Twitter. But I mean, who else are you going to come down here and say that you absolutely like? Like, is there anybody else? Is there anybody below 7,400 that you think, boy, this has to be my value squad?
Has to be? Definitely not. No.
Yeah. Okay. Who do you feel okay about?
So the guys that rate out well for me are below 7K. You got Scott Stallings, Bryce Garnett. They're both pretty good from the 200 plus range that I talked about. They both have pretty good course history here. They've never played together, but they rate out well for me. You have Shank and Duncan, who are at least somewhat interesting. They did play together here in 2018.
Shank can't give you a 50th though, because only 35 make the cut. He's got to try to get his 30th.
Yeah, that's true. That might be his best finish in years if he T30s. So yeah, I don't know. And then KH Lee and Stanley both rate out well for me, but yeah, it's pretty ugly. Peter Uline, shout out to him, won on the Corn Ferry Tour last week in Vegas at Paiute. I actually played that course and I think I shot like 150. It was impossible around the greens. So shout out to him.
Yeah, one on a course that's a par 100. So well, cool. I hadn't seen that, so that's good for him. He's been at it for a while. Always had some promise. Tambo always likes to give me grief about Johnny Vegas, so I'm going to put him in my player pool as well. Just because if he wins, then I can jostle Tambo a little bit next week. It's worth the equity in that alone. So go Andres Romero. Hopefully he can play well.
So Romero did win here like 15 years ago. And if you look at their stats, they're actually number one in this field in strokes gained off the tee. If you take it back long enough, Romero doesn't really play a lot of golf on the PGA Tour, but it's at least something.
Yeah. And he did make the cut in Puerto Rico a few weeks ago. So again, at least something. And I believe played well here in 19, with Julian Ettiling, I believe. They finished, or at least made the cut. Look, I mean, these guys below 7K is you're not expecting top 5, but you can get some cuts made and decent, birdies on the weekend. You just never know. So you're probably including a couple of these in your multi-entry GPP player pool for sure. Seamus Power has withdrawn, tested positive for COVID. So Zach Sucher is taking his place and playing with David Hearn. Probably don't want to mess with that group, but just in case that affects anybody's lineups. Batia and Piercy, I imagine they might get a little bit of ownership just because of the name recognition factor. Any interest there?
Yeah, I think they'll probably have like one round where they're -10 as a team, and then the next round where they're 6 over. I know Batia, he's always one of those guys that you play in showdown, and then you fade him for the full tournament because he just has those crazy rounds where he's sticking it to 5 feet every hole. So I don't mind him. Another strange pairing was Vaughn Taylor and Rasmus Højgaard. Can't imagine they've ever met before. I mean, Vaughn Taylor's like mid-40s for America. Højgaard hasn't played much over here. You know, he's a really young kid. I think he's like 20 years old. Really good talent from the European tour. So that's another one of those ones that you just, I don't know. Do we put more stock into team chemistry, or do you just throw it all out the window and just play random names?
I mean, yeah, down here, I think you're just playing random names, but I don't know. I mean, chemistry can build real quick if you're playing well. And it can erode pretty quick if you're not playing well. So, you know, I think there is something to be said for the guys that have played here together every year the last 3 times, and, you know, maybe have had a decent run of finishes, but it's pretty unpredictable. I mean, you look at some of the names that have won or finished top 5 here, and embrace the variance a little bit this week. I think it makes some sense. So,
one other team, they have played here all 3 years together, Kelly Craft, Kevin Tway. And they played pretty well, 3rd and a 13th during that stretch.
You haven't seen Tway hardly at all.
Yeah, he's the Van Rooyen. We're going to see him and Van Rooyen in the same course at the same time. They're doppelgangers.
Tway did make the cut last week. Otherwise, he had not made a cut since October on the PGA Tour. It's ugly down towards the bottom. I mean, I will certainly be following this event a lot more than usual, and I'll get some lineups in there and have a sweat. But tread a little bit carefully this week. You know, some guys kind of just treat this as a little exhibition, a little fun. It's priced, you know, pretty tight on DK at least. FanDuel is not priced as tight, but you're going to see ownership concentrate a little bit more, and just have some fun with it this week. Make some lineups. And I mean, I am shocked at the prize pools on DK. They're huge. I mean, you know, for them never having offered this before, you've got a $10 buy-in with $200K to first. You've got a $555 with $100K to first. You got a $44 with $50K to first. I mean, that's the usual offerings, and maybe even a little bit more in some cases for this time of year. So outside of a major.
Yeah, props to them. And I got a prop bet for you.
All right, let's hear it.
All right, Woody Austin and Rocco Immediate. Their finishing position over under 78.5.
There's 80 teams, right?
Yeah.
Is that seriously a prop?
I just made it up.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say if that was seriously, I can't imagine. I mean, how old is Woody Austin?
Their pictures looked real old. They both have pictures on DraftKings though.
Woody Austin is 57. And Rocco is 58. Oh boy. So you're basically saying, can they beat, what did you say, 58.5 or 78.5? Can they beat 2 teams?
Can they beat 2?
Can they beat 2 teams? Oh,
I'll give you ties too. I'll give you ties as well.
I'm gonna say no.
Okay.
I'm gonna say no, but I don't feel great about it. I mean, you could see a withdraw. You could see on the alternate shot. I mean, on the alternate shot days, you could see somebody post like a 10. It could be. I mean, but it could be them posting a 10. You just don't know. Don't play them in DFS. Yeah, no. I mean, it's their player cards look fantastic because they're making a ton of cuts on the Champions Tour. But don't be fooled by those cuts made. Oh man, I'm changing my vote. I think they do it. I think they beat at least 2 teams.
Let's go, Woody.
Now I gotta search and see if there really are any props out there. I think they beat 2 teams. There's so much trash at the bottom of this field. I think I think they managed to beat 2. That's gonna look silly when they are like in last by like 8, but that's all right.
Well,
Gives us something else to root for.
what a way to round out the show.
All right, a little bit shorter this week, but no Tambo and a new event and only 80 teams. So we figured we'd only be about 30-40 minutes, and that's right about where we're at. So again, for those of you watching, we're free now on YouTube. Thanks for watching. Be sure to leave us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Plenty of great Rotogrinders content coming your way through our YouTube channel, and also appreciate those of you downloading us and listening in podcast form after the fact. Hope we can make your transit drive or listen to us as you're building lineups enjoyable and make some money along the way. So for Noto and the absent Tambo and our producer Devin, I am Justin. Have a great week, everybody. Good luck with the Zurich Classic. Hopefully this makes it a little more fun to follow this year, and we'll see how it goes. So until next week, where we will be back to normal for the Valspar Championship. Have a good one, everybody. We will see you later.